Guy who's in the film room doing the Baldy breakdowns, Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL. Going to break down some of the big plays in that game and highlight some of the things that went wrong, Baldy. And one of the things a lot of people, when the Eagles lose, it's everybody's falling off the wagon here, jumping off the bridge. One of the things is, for me anyway, I thought there were plays to be made. As a lot of people thought Doug was a little conservative. Even if you thought he was conservative, there were plays to be made, Baldy, that were not made on Sunday night.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think we all saw, Nelson Aguilar wide open, that could have, been a big play. I think we saw a screen to Kenyon Barner that didn't get done. We saw Carson Wentz diving into the end zone. The ball got stripped out. I mean, these are all plays that the Eagles, can turn around that they could do a little bit better job of. And so I think, the Eagles just need to look in the mirror and look at themselves and, see what they can do to correct things and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of good football that was actually played on Sunday night, that didn't get talked about much, I guess. But, I would say this is still a very good football team. They didn't lose anybody, no injuries. So, look, it's a tough place to play, and Seattle made the plays. The Eagles didn't, and that's what happens, in those kind of games.
Baldy with us. What were some of those plays that we didn't talk about or that weren't seen?
Well, I just think that, all the way down to, just protection a little bit. I mean, on the last 4th and 6 right there, where the Eagles are trying to compete and stay alive. Wisniewski gets beat by Bobby Wagner. That's the kind of play that there's an open Trey Burton coming across the middle. You make that play, who knows what happens. The play to Kenyon Barner, the screen, KJ Wright came on a blitz, and, you want him to blitz. You want him to come. You just want a little better throw from Carson under pressure right there because Kenyon Barner might walk into the end zone for a touchdown. I think those are all, kind of shining examples of some things that can be done better, that's for sure. But I don't have any doubts about what kind of team the Eagles are. They're going to get really well tested this week. Their eyes against the Rams will get tested because there's a lot of misdirection, a lot of play action, a lot of window dressing that Sean McVay throws at you, and you got to be very disciplined when you play that team.
Brian Baldinger is with us, and there was some good. I want you to highlight, what happened on that Aguilar play too, because he was wide open. But what caused him to be so wide open? Is that a breakdown from Seattle or something else that allowed him to be open? Because they hit, they missed, but they kind of missed on a similar play later on in the game where Wentz underthrew Aguilar.
Yeah, it's just a cover 3 concept, and you got to do a kind of a zone replacement. One guy comes into your zone, you got to be there to pick it up. And there was some miscommunication on Seattle's part. You could actually see the players looking around going, why wasn't somebody over there? They all kind of went to Nelson. They all kind of went to Alshon Jeffrey at the top of the play on his post route. But when Aguilar cut across on the over route, there was nobody there to pick him up. And that's a breakdown of Seattle. And, you could say that Doug was conservative, and I think to a large part he was. I mean, this is not the Legion of Boom. This is not, Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman. I mean, this is, Byron Maxwell, who's been well-traveled the last 2 years out there, Shaquille Griffin, who's really yet to prove himself. They know the scheme. I thought that they would have attacked a little bit more down the field than they did in that game.
Ole, was there an issue with the Eagles' offensive line? Because Mike and I talked a little bit about Vitae. Was that something that Seattle was doing, or is there some concern there at that left side of the line?
No, I think Vitae's played pretty well. I mean, it's not Jason Peters out there, but they don't give him a lot of help, and by and large, he's played pretty well. He doesn't miss a lot of assignments. He's pretty strong mentally like that. He's played left tackle in college. I don't think, I don't know what their options are. I mean, they brought in Will Beatty, and he's working out with Jeff Stoutland daily and trying to get up to speed. But, Lane Johnson doesn't want to go over there. He hasn't practiced there. I mean, he's not going to look great at left tackle. Plus, him and Brandon Brooks are about as good a right side as there is in football right now. I mean, I think Big V is their left tackle, and they've got to figure out how to best use him and put him in the best situations. But by and large, I think he's played pretty well.
Walk me through the help if they were to give him help, and is there any correlation to Zach Ertz leaving the game that then eliminated the ability to give him some help?
No, I mean, there's always, you can chip, you can slide. You could do it by formation, bunch formations. You can, you can have your slot receiver closer to the end to kind of give him a push before you go out. There's a lot of different things you can do. If I can, 4 or 5 different things, chip help, running back help, slide. I mean, all those things are things that you would do if a player was struggling out there. But I don't really think he's struggling. Every once in a while, he's going to see a player. Frank Clark's a good football player. Pete Carroll is on the record saying he's the most explosive defensive lineman he's ever coached. That says a lot. Pete's been around a long time. Frank Clark's a good football player. So you're going to get beat some out there. But I don't think it was to the point where they had to think about changing the position or fixing it or anything like that. I don't see those type of problems from him out there.
Yeah, I did see a lot of Frank Clark beating him inside a lot, so that was what my concern was. But, yeah, like you said, their plan is probably just to throw him out there and continue to try and have him get better. Speaking of getting better, Doug seemed to indicate that he didn't, and Malcolm Jenkins after the game, he thought they didn't practice the way they needed to. Do you have any concerns about them not being at home? Like I said this in the open, the posh hotel, and they're training at Mike Trout's stadium, at Angel Stadium instead of their facilities. How does that affect a football team, positively or negatively?
Well, I mean, there's a trade-off. I mean, do you want to fly back home and get back at 7 o'clock in the morning from Seattle on Monday, and then turn around on Friday and fly back out to the West Coast? I mean, do you prefer that, or do you prefer Mike Trout Stadium? I mean, plenty of teams have come either east and stayed east. San Francisco 49ers in 2011, they came here. They played in Cincinnati. They beat Cincinnati. They came to Philadelphia. They beat the Eagles, and they were off and running under Jim Harbaugh. A lot of teams will do that if they've got back-to-back across-the-coast games. And so it says 2 things. One, it says a lot about your maturity level, how you practice and how you prepare. And then secondly, look, the Eagles got complacency can creep in here. You're this far out in front. If Dallas loses a game at any point here, they're going to clinch the division. So complacency is an issue. And if Malcolm Jenkins is saying we didn't practice the way we wanted to, the way we need to, then, especially when you're going into Seattle, where you better have everything buttoned up against that quarterback in that atmosphere, that says a lot about, are they complacent? I think complacency is a bigger issue than staying out in Los Angeles here and getting ready for this game.
And, Baldy, one thing with complacency, if that is the issue, then the thing that goes and ties hand in hand with that is sometimes teams aren't ready for the bright lights, right? I mean, they look at strength of schedule, and, look, the Eagles' 2 losses have come against, at the time, a very good Kansas City team. And then last Sunday night, they were under the bright lights of the national TV audience and came up a little bit short. And it looked like it showed to me.
Well, I mean, they're going to look. You've got to play the whole season. You got to play the whole schedule, and then you make the evaluation at the end. Nobody wins anything in December, so they've got to figure out a way that they got to keep getting better, because in the playoffs it's going to be one competitive NFC. I mean, Minnesota went down to Atlanta and they held, the number 1 offensive football a year ago without scoring a touchdown. I mean, Minnesota can throw a blanket over you right now. The New Orleans Saints can run the ball against anybody. I mean, it's going to be heavy competition when you get to January. So it doesn't matter where you play. You better be playing your best football. So that's Doug's job, and that's his challenge right now, to keep, sharpening iron with this team and keep getting it better and make sure that situations and situational football, that they're on their P's and Q's for all the things that can come up, because there's a lot of things that are going to come up that they haven't seen yet this year.
We're talking to Brian Baldinger. Use the hashtag Baldy Breakdowns on Twitter at BaldyNFL for him breaking down a lot of these plays. And Baldy, one thing in the NFL, it's copycat league. If the Rams watched the film of the Eagles' defense the other night, did they have the personnel to do some of the things, or is that just Russell Wilson improvising, or was there some legitimate concern and maybe some of the coverage from the linebackers?
Well, it's just impossible to defend Russell Wilson. I mean, the Eagles won plenty of matchups up front, and Russell Wilson was on his horse, and he was looking for, somewhere to, like some kind of opening to try to rescue a play. I mean, it happened more than a half a dozen times where he was just running for his life they won the battle up front, but Russell Wilson is just the escape artist. Jared Goff doesn't play football like that. The Rams don't play like that. But it's a completely different offense. It's based off play action. They take more deep shots than any team in this league. They're looking to put it down. Their secondary will get tested on Sunday more than any other game they played this year. Now, the way that you sort of handle that is the way they've handled most teams this year. They got to win up front, but they do a lot of max protection. They do a lot of play action. Your eyes better be in the right place. This is a very, very talented offense, and it's a very well-designed offense. It's the best offense they've seen by far all year. Minnesota saw them 2 weeks ago. They shut down Todd Gurley. They shut the offense down cold. That's the Eagles' challenge on Sunday.
Baldy, and Seattle does not run the ball very well. They didn't have a running back over 200 yards, but they executed pretty well. Was that a concern that the Eagles' run defense showed a little bit of a crack?
Yeah, Mike Davis, first time he really ran this year. He got 4 yards to carry. He was right on schedule. And Russell Wilson did his scrambles, and so they kind of carved out a little bit of a run game. But when you defend Seattle, you always have to defend Russell Wilson in the run game, and he presents different problems on his keepers, his bootlegs, and his read options. And so it stretches you. They haven't seen a quarterback like that. I don't know if they've seen one like that all year, Cam Newton. But Cam at that point wasn't really a run threat. He is a little bit more now. So when you play Seattle, it's completely different than just about any other team that they've seen. When they saw Denver or San Francisco or Chicago, all the teams they beat up on, they didn't see a quarterback that presents the issues that Russell Wilson does. Now, Jared Goff doesn't present any of those issues, but Todd Gurley does and Sean McVay does.
Yeah, no doubt. And you couldn't get two different quarterbacks from Wilson to Goff. He's a pretty stacked U.S. guy back there. So it seems that if the Eagles win up front like they did against Seattle, they should be in much better position this week to prosper from that.
Well, you would think, yeah. I mean, it starts up front, but I've seen Jared Goff against a lot of good teams, and his play action. I mean, I've seen him with 10 or 12 yards of separation between the defensive line, and all day to throw the ball. This offense, you really want to get them in third and long when you can. I mean, that's obvious for any offense. But when you take the play action away from them, you take about a half the playbook away, and then Jared Goff, could be under duress, and that's what the mission of Jim Schwartz and his defense is this week, to take the play action game away from them. The Vikings did it, and they shut the team down. We'll see if the Eagles are up to that task and what kind of preparation they have, as you say, at Mike Trout Stadium.
Yeah, I like throwing that in there. Hey, Brian, would you say, if you had to compare the two guys, because Carson Wentz got so much of the attention early this season, has Goff been able to fly under the radar? And which guy do you think technically throws a better ball as you sit down and do your breakdowns? Which ball looks prettier? Well,
I think Carson Wentz is a much more talented player. But I don't want to take anything away from Jared Goff. He is, he's very poised. The offense is perfect for him. He knows really, you could see him even 2 weeks ago just lining up the rookie Josh Reynolds and getting him lined up. You can see him taking charge of this offense. It's when you break down the Los Angeles Rams, nobody does more in this league than the Rams do. There is an awful lot of studying that has to go on by formation, by personnel groupings. They fixed Todd Gurley when they put Jared Goff back under center, and they got out of the shotgun offense. They've done a lot of good tinkering this year. Jared Goff is good for that offense. I don't want to say one guy's better than the other. I like Carson because I think he does more. And if you ask me who has a better arm, I think Carson has a better arm. But that offense, there'll be a lot of quarterbacks in this league that would love to play in Sean McVay's offense.
If you check out the hashtag Baldy Breakdowns, he breaks down a lot of missed opportunities for big plays. We talked about the Aguilar one, the hold on Alshon Jeffrey there, and also you talked about that screen pass there too a little bit. But what happened on that screenplay? Because it was a little weird. It looked like Barner had to kind of jump through. He was kind of trying to, get his way through the crease there. That play just looked like it was off from the get-go.
Well, it can happen. Those things can happen now. I saw, Nigel Bradham just grab the back of Seattle and get called for it and tackle him trying to get out. and he got caught. I mean, sometimes it's just not an open crease. To release, it's a 3-count screen. You got to kind of hesitate a little bit. You're inviting a rush. KJ Wright's coming from, Carson's right side. He's unblocked, which is okay. They're blitzing him. Carson's trying to buy a little bit of time. He knows Wright's coming. He's just trying to buy a little bit of time, waiting for, Barner to clear. And it was just slow in developing. And those things happen. It just does. A little better ball maybe under that type of pressure. Maybe Barner has a chance. He's got a lot of green to run. The Alshon hold there was just unnecessary. It's clear. He's grabbing Shaquille Griffin on the play. It's just not necessary at that point. All you have to do is just shield and once you see LeGarrette Blount coming at you, I mean, he's a freight train. Just let him do the damage at that point.
Right. Real quick, the Giants made their change. You have a lot of breakdowns on the they didn't do a lot of changing, though, from quarterback to quarterback. They still look like a mess with Geno Smith back there.
I thought so, too. I mean, I don't know why you would bench Eli Manning for a guy that has never had any pocket presence in this business. He didn't, with Khalil Mack out there and Bruce Irvin running around in the field. And he got the ball knocked out of his hands twice, and one was really costly. But the offense, it just doesn't know how to attack. And it doesn't know how to protect. I mean, you got Chad Wheeler making his third start in the NFL at right tackle. He struggled against Ryan Kerrigan the week before with no help. Why do you think that he wouldn't struggle against Khalil Mack with no help? I mean, there's just some basic tenets that you got to be able to run your offense with. Bootlegging to Khalil Mack's side is not a very good option. I mean, he doesn't get fooled easily. He's the defensive player of the year for a reason. He's a really complete player. You got to, you just can't line your guys up out there like you just have, a regular guy playing that position. He's an elite player. You got to have a scheme for it, and they didn't. And, Junior Smith ran into the same problems that Eli's ran into. It's just a poor scheme and poorly designed plays to attack a really average to poor defense that the Raiders have.
For more, check out @Baldy NFL on Twitter. Use the hashtag Baldy Breakdowns. Baldy, you know where you're going to be Sunday? You have a game this weekend?
Yeah. I'm going to be in Los Angeles, but I'm going to be at the other team in Los Angeles. I'll be doing the Chargers-Redskin game simultaneous to the Eagles, playing the Rams. So I'll have my eyes up on the TV in the booth while I'm calling the Chargers and Redskins.
That Charger team's been turning it on, man.
Yeah,
that Charger team is looking legit all of a sudden.
Well, they're legit. They're very legit. Keenan Allen is indefensible, and nobody seems to be able to block Joey Bosa, and Phillip Rivers is on his game right now. And I would say that, with 4 games to go, they're the prohibitive favorites to win the AFC West right now.
Brian Baldinger, everybody, NFL Network. We appreciate it.